Good afternoon, family. This is Jazz 313, a new series that will be coming out for the next 12 months, once a month. But I just want to let you know a little bit about myself. My name is KJ McFall, a jazz lover. I just want to let the people of Detroit know that they're living in a place with a lot of jewels. It's almost like being born in a place where you was born on third base and didn't even realize it. And I want to just read something from our esteemed departed Congressman, John Conyers. In 1987, he introduced House Resolution 57, which declared that jazz is hereby designated as a rare, valuable, national American treasure to which we should devote our attention and support and resources to make certain it is preserved and understood and promulgated. Its passage thrilled the jazz community. Some grumbled that the resolution didn't do anything to fund the music. But John Conyers' word, I believe that it's indirectly helped many gatekeepers of the culture and the philanthropy recognized as an art form as an important part of American culture. I myself is a gatekeeper. I am a lifelong Detroiter, love jazz, been around jazz, didn't even realize that I was too young for the Hastings Street. But I just want to go over in this first episode, it'll just be 10 minutes, and we'll be doing this once a month, but just talk about some of the talent that is here right now. Ali Jackson, who was a drummer for the Wynton Marsalis Jazz Orchestra at Lincoln Center, Cass Tech graduate. Alvin Jones, part of the trio of brothers from Pontiac, Michigan. Alvin Jones, Hank Jones, and Thad Jones. We just lost Mr. Barry Harris, a great piano player. Betty Carter, my favorite. I never want to say who is the best. I said they are all in the Parthenon, as well as Abby Lincoln. She's from Battle Creek. We talk about Donald Byrd, Carlos McKinney, part of the famed Ray and Earl McKinney, relations to Regina Carter, which is another cousin of James Carter, which is some of the finest, outstanding, world-renowned jazz players from our great city. And I must talk about Donald Byrd. Donald Byrd had hits, had Grammys, gave a lot of people a lot of breaks, a Detroit graduate of Cass Tech. Earl Van Dyke, I can just give you a tidbit of him. I'm a former teacher in Detroit public schools. I had an opportunity to meet and listen and talk to Earl Van Dyke on many, many occasions. Yeah, he was part of the Motown, and we represent Motown, but I just want to focus all on jazz. And what we'll be doing in the next 12 months, 1 month we'll be talking about trumpet players, great drummers, which we'll talk about in a couple more minutes. We'll be talking about pianists, present saxophone players. We talk about Ed Love, who is still doing it for Destination Jazz. Rosetta Hines, the great Jim Dozo. When I was up at Eastern Michigan back in the early 80s, I had a chance to do some work with WEMU. I had a midnight jazz radio talk show in which I was KJ the DJ, if any of you guys still living. But as a vanguard, as a torchbearer, this is for everybody, but in particularly the younger youth of Detroit. They just need to know about Alvin Jones, Jerry Allen, James Jamerson, Joe Henderson, Kareem Riggins, who's doing it right now, Kenny Burrell, a great guitar player, Kenny Cox, Kurt Lightsey, keyboard, Louis Hayes, drummer, Sir Roland Hanna, piano player. Right now in the background, if you listen to, I'm listening to one of the great piano players that's come out of here. We talk about Tommy Flanagan and how I came to know Tommy Flanagan and love Tommy Flanagan as a young man, being in college, being with Clark Terry and James Moody and Jackie Biard. I mentioned I was from Detroit, and they say, hey, do you know Tommy Flanagan? And I'm 17 years old in Bismarck, North Dakota with the National Endowments of the Arts, and they playing Tommy Flanagan. And I'm like, wow. I would see Tommy Flanagan at Baker's Key Lounge on 8 Mile in Illinois. Clarence Baker, we must talk about him. He kept the torch strong. And there's a lot of great clubs all over America. I don't know if Snug Harbor down in New Orleans is open. The Marsalis family, Ellis Marcellus, seen him many, many nights there. Sochi's in San Francisco, Oakland area. The Blue Note, the Village Vanguard. I'm a regular at the Village Vanguard whenever I go to New York. I know we kind of locked down with COVID, but we have Byrd's place here of the great trumpet player as well as educator and a guy who shares my birthday, Marcus Belgrade. I just want to just talk about how great he was and bringing Carlos McKinney, Ali Jackson, the late great bass player. His name was Tassili Bond. He had an untimely death, died a young man. Regina Carter, Robert Hurst. I can just sit here and tell you about Robert Hurst. If you know the Bradford Marcellus, the Tonight Show, he was one of the original saxophone players in that band. And me and his father, God bless his soul, from Rochester, Michigan, he was a bigwig at Michigan Bell, a good friend of mine, somewhat of a mentor. We could sit back and talk about, she wasn't a musician, but she exposed a lot of jazz. The great Rosetta Hines, she was a local DJ. If anybody's still around, remember WJZZ, she brought the funk to us every night. Sonny Stitt, he's out of Saginaw. Thad Jones, we talked about Hank Jones. Tommy Flanagan, I've just been listening to him all day. And every month, as you tune in, and I would like for you to share this. This is not a financial experiment. This is the Vanguard pushing this thing so the youth of Detroit can know that you're standing on solid ground. A little bit more than Motown. And we love Motown. We're talking about the great Earl Jones, who was a drummer, played at Byrd's, played with all the jazz greats. I've seen him sit in with Harry Connick at Byrd's, Wendell Harrison, Curtis Fuller, Yusef Lateef. Also, not to be remiss, if you can see this picture right here, those of you who know, this is a great guy. His name was Virgil Grady. He did this picture. This is a picture of John Coltrane. So I just want the people in Detroit to support this and pass this. Again, this is Jazz 313, exclusively talking about nothing but the greats that come out of Detroit. We never want to say who is the best drummer, who is the best singer, but we can just say if it wasn't for Detroit as well as New Orleans and Kansas City, Detroit was the incubator of a lot of great jazz. When I sit about and you listen to people talk about the Bluebird right there on by the old Beechwood, it's on Terman. They're trying to resurrect that. I was too young for Cobb's Corner and all the great, when I talk to all the old heads. But I just wanted people to know Jazz 313 is something that I want you to look forward to, and I am the Vanguard. And if you have anything that you would like to share with us, my email is 42educational@gmail.com. We'll be releasing them again once a month. I will just give you a rundown. For February, we'll be talking about the piano players. In March, we'll be talking about the great drummers. In April, the trumpets. We'll be talking about Racy Biggs. I don't even know how I forgot about him. This brother plays two trumpet. I had his daughter as a student of mine at Crockett High School, and we just talked about the theory of jazz, the history of jazz. It's just so great to have you listen to me, and it's so great to be a part of Detroit. And I just need you to let your kids and bring your kids in this true original American art form. Jazz, if you look at what was going on in 1936 with Joe Louis and the Nazis, and you look at Jesse Owens, and you look at what our girl Josephine Baker was doing over in the World War II over in France, jazz is a liberating music. Again, as I told you, we'll be here for 10 minutes only. It's called 313 Jazz. Tune in. We're YouTube. You can catch and subscribe to KJ McFall. That is my YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that. You can leave me a comment. I will definitely get back with you. Also, when you sit back and look at the great things that happen in America and think about the things that Detroit wasn't just the Motor City, put the cars put America on wheels, but if it wasn't for Detroit, you wouldn't have Kenny Burrell. You wouldn't have Earl Klugh. I don't know if I talked about him. But anyway, though, good night. Have a great time and listen to some jazz, and God bless you. See you next month.